How can we as healers design strategies that not only drive success, but also prioritizes healing and emotional well-being, ensuring that people feel valued and empowered throughout the process?
I actually think that the future of business are those people who pioneer creating the most human and humane companies in the world.
Like, how do you listen? And so I think, being a great communicator, using all 7 frequencies, but being a master listener, you can listen to every frequency where they're at.
When we talk about your shadow or your authentic expression of your frequency, it's not a either or. And you can be in the same moment and be vacillating between your shadow and your light.
You're listening to the Mindshift podcast here live in Los Angeles at the Arena Conference 2024. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
I love it. Yeah. Okay.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Erwin McManus, and I'm here with my dad, Erwin McManus.
It is so good to be here.
How come you get a middle name? Don't say mine.
You have a middle name.
Yeah, but
You just choose not to use it.
Okay.
And I choose to use mine because it's the only name I have that I actually have from my birth. Everything else is an alias. So Raphael is the one thing that's grounded in some small sense of reality.
That's so... There's not enough therapists in the world to unpack that situation right now. So we're gonna.
I am why they have a career.
You do. Okay, so I have the book without the dust jacket.
And I have the one that's already signed. I signed it for myself.
It's my signature.
Awesome.
Okay, so creating the 7 frequencies was a little bit of an accident, but can you kind of talk us through how that happened?
Sure. We had developed the art of communication, which is about a 6 to 8 hour masterclass, and we had an initial launch, and we had fantastic response. And then you came to me and said, "Could you create a 15-minute product that we could give away so we can promote the art of communication?" And I didn't have anything. I think that was a Friday. So I thought, okay, I'll spend the weekend thinking about how to design or create a 15-minute gift. And so I started thinking about communication frequencies, but I didn't know I was thinking about frequencies. I was just thinking about communication and why people misunderstand each other and why sometimes some people resonate, other people don't. And why sometimes Kim thinks I said something that I didn't say. And and why sometimes she'll tell me I said something that I'm sure I didn't say. And why is it that she can understand me when I say what she wants me to say, and yet doesn't understand me when I say what she doesn't want me to say? And I started realizing...
You want to live, right?
Yeah, you want to live. Yeah.
You
because
live with her.
It is rooted in real life. And I said, yeah. And so I started thinking about how I spent most of my life being misunderstood. And I've always felt that was off the human frequency. And that's where it began. I thought, I think humans emit frequencies. And the frequencies go deeper than words. And so I began mapping. And when I say mapping, I have this visual dynamic that happens. I start seeing images and colors and designs in my mind. And so when I say I started writing for 3 days, I mean, I was writing in my mind, not on anything physical. And I couldn't sleep. All of a sudden I was consumed by it. And I couldn't sleep for Friday night, Saturday night. Sunday night, Kim wakes up maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, sees me drenched in sweat. I'm wide awake. She goes, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, I can't stop hearing and seeing it. It's just coming. So by the time I woke up Monday morning, you guys were already set up with cameras and ready to film this 15-minute gift. And I said, I've got something. It's called the 7 frequencies of communication. And at first I saw 5. And then I saw the 6th one. And I was trying to identify my frequency. And that's how I found the 6th one. Because I didn't exist in the first 5 really as much. And then the 6th one I saw, but the 7th one is actually the frequency I am. And that was the last one I could see. And I realized most of us don't actually see the frequency that is primary to us, because it's not a frequency to us, it's us. And so by the time I woke up, I had that seventh frequency. And then I came in and I said, okay, go. And you roll the camera, and 6 hours later?
Oh, where's Austin? He'll keep us honest.
How many hours later, Austin? We
Wait,
just began filming and filming and
Yeah.
filming.
Yeah.
And all of that content came out on that film. So if you want to see the raw expression of how data is translated from my imagination into reality, you should go find the 7 frequencies of communication in the arena, because it's unfiltered. It's actually what came out of my imagination on that Monday.
It's a little filtered. It's filtered.
Edited.
Yeah, by me and Austin.
But what I didn't realize is that it's almost as if I traveled through a portal into a universe that had always been there, but I had not yet explored it. And even now, 2 years, because this was 2 years ago,
Yeah.
2 years later, I'm still floating through the space of that universe, discovering new things and unwrapping new dynamics. And I'm a student of the 7 frequencies, not a master of the 7 frequencies. And I'm just transmitting and sharing what I'm learning in the process. And it's one of the most exciting journeys I've ever been on in my life.
I love that. I mean, I didn't love the Monday morning when I woke up to a text from you at like 3 a.m. on the group text. And we've talked about like rules and boundaries, like don't text the team at 2:45 in the morning when you think you see frequencies.
But those are office hours somewhere in the world.
Yeah. We have a special team that's yeah. But we've talked about that. I'm like, hey, normal people sleep. Text me. I'm your friend. I'm your son. I'll never think anything weird. But when you text the whole team, hey guys, I'm seeing frequencies on the walls, I start getting nervous. So I woke up to the note, and the note didn't stop scrolling. It just kept going and going, and it was like a breakup text.
I mean, I feel like it's a very
with the universe. That's what it felt like. And so I woke up and I was like, oh, it's gonna be a long day. This is not a 15-minute quick, giveaway thing. And so what I do love about the arena, because the arena is unique. So like this is the arena, it's the conference. We also do these like once a month summits with the different guests who speak here on the platform, and our friends will do, more like kind of mastermind, like specific sessions where we do Q&As. But then there's this app called School, which is weird. But what's really cool about it is it's also the community. So people ask questions, leave prompts. You have Mark Barley, you have you have Caleb, you have Carol, you have these amazing people throughout the arena community. They're constantly asking questions and engaging with each other. But also that's where all the content lives. So I think now we have 100 plus hours of video content from Q&As, from 7 frequencies, and we just keep updating and adding. So it's this whole like little universe, which is really cool. But the cool thing about it is that when we first started shooting it, it was like live and raw. We would stop, you would like write stuff down, you'd start Googling things, we'd start doing research. I think there was like a few hours where we were starting to look up names and different people and watching videos and comparing. But that is something that I really love about you, is that you are constantly like adding and editing. We talked about like this book being something like when we were designing the book, it wanted something that you would leave on the coffee table. You wanted it to be something that stayed alive. That didn't just like it wasn't just written and thrown into a library somewhere.
This is, for me, is a living document
that will continue to be added to and edited.
And what people don't realize is the reason this has so much texture is because you ask so many questions.
Yeah.
And the moment I would make an observation, you would go, yeah, but how does this work? Or what's the implication here? Or how does that play out? And that's been a part of the journey of it.
Yeah, you're a master collaborator, which is something that I find really interesting about you, because you don't really need the rest of us. Like you see a different world, and I'm always reminded by this movie, A Beautiful Mind. Like the moment he starts writing on the windows, I know I've lost my man, you know? So we keep him on, he's still writing in notes until he writes in the windows. Then I'm now I'll ask for help. But
I love that movie.
I know you do. It makes me nervous how much you do like it. But one of the things we talked about was when you were creating the frequencies, you started introducing the shadows. And that's part of how you started to truly identify and kind of cross-check maybe the facts of the different personality points or the communication points. Was how important are the shadows to you? Wait, why are you laughing at me already?
Oh, because of how we stumbled on the shadows.
Let's not tell the truth. Let's
No.
save that for a different pod.
No, I think it's important because we were on the arena,
Okay.
and I'm presenting the entire frameworks for the 7 frequencies, and I just threw this out very spontaneously. Pick a TV show,
Yes.
and I will break down that TV show based on the 7 frequencies. And I think we may have put it on social media. Overwhelmingly, 2 shows rose to the top:
Yes.
Friends and Succession.
Yeah.
Well, I never watched Friends. I think I may be the only human that didn't.
No.
And it didn't seem that intriguing to me as, I don't want to break them down. But Succession, even though I probably shouldn't have watched it, and I love Succession.
What do you mean? You're the one who told me to watch it.
Yes, I did. And so I thought, I'm going to do Succession because that's a very complex, dark, gritty, relevant show. So I went and started rewatching Succession because I'd seen it all. And I almost had a panic attack. The anxiety inside of me was overwhelming. And I don't know if you ever felt one of those moments, because what I felt was, oh no, I've gone public on the 7 frequencies and it doesn't work. And that's an incredibly both terrifying and humiliating intersection, because I couldn't find any of the frequencies in Succession. And I stepped away, took a walk, and I heard this little voice in my head that said, go back and listen for the shadows. And I thought, oh. And I went back and started watching it, and they just exploded off the screen. Kendall, Logan, Shiv, Tom, all of them. And if you have never seen the show, I am not recommending it. But there were 7 primary characters who personified each one of the frequencies from the shadow. And there was no light. So there wasn't a moment where I could see the frequency from the light. There was never one healthy, positive human expression of the frequency, but the entire series is carried through these shadow frequencies. And I thought that was really fascinating and almost exciting. And, so I popped them into my phone about 2 years ago. I do.
I have it too. Okay.
You have them too?
Yeah, you make me nervous when you're like this. Yeah.
When I'm tired, I have an unfiltered mind.
All right, come on. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Go.
That's why I don't do drugs. And I
Thank
don't
God you
need
do
them.
drugs. You write books instead.
I write books.
Yes.
So how many, I'm just curious, have ever seen Succession? Oh,
come on. They're already
so many broken, dysfunctional people in this room. And how many have ever seen Billions? Okay.
Sad.
Not as many.
But Succession.
Succession. All
Okay,
right.
walk us through it.
Wait a minute. How many have seen Friends?
All of them.
Such a healthy group of people. And someone on our team who is a huge Friends fan.
Who?
I can't remember who it was. It might have been Brooke.
Is it Brooke?
Sent me all the 7 frequencies from Friends.
That makes sense.
It works.
That makes sense.
But they're the positive frequencies with a little bit of shadow.
Okay.
But anyway, all right, Succession. So let's walk through the 7 frequencies from the shadows.
Let's do it.
And maybe we'll have everyone stand when I name a primary frequency so that I can see you in your shadow.
Why? You're dark today. I don't know how I feel. You're in your shadow right now.
We'll get to that. We'll get to my shadow, and that's why it can be dangerous. But
You want to start with the motivator?
I want to start with the motivator. So everyone whose primary frequency is motivator, stand up real quick. I want to see you. Beautiful, beautiful. You are the John Gordons of the world. You are the Brendan Bouchards of the world. You are the inspirers of the world. You are beautiful. You see the best in us. You inspire us. You energize us. You build self-belief in us. And you may have a
sit down. You
seat.
can sit down. You can sit down while he rips your soul out of your body. So talk about the dark side.
I'm not going to say the dark side.
It literally says on page 108 of the 7 Frequencies of Communication, published by yours truly, it says going to the dark side.
Okay.
It's your terminology.
It is dark. But here's the thing. When we talk about your shadow or your authentic expression of your frequency, it's not a either or a black and white kind of thing. It's a spectrum. And you can be in the same moment and be vacillating between your shadow and your light. And it probably wouldn't take me 5 minutes to help you see that or to know moments you've been in both. Because this isn't just about being on a platform. It's even in a relationship. Have you ever, you're a motivator and your shadow is the performer. When you're pulled to your shadow, what happens is that you are more focused on what others feel about you than how you feel about them. You're focused on the affirmation and acceptance and love of others, and you're more convinced that the polished, image-managed version of you will be more loved and accepted than the raw, authentic you. Does that sound accurate? I'm looking at some of the motivators here.
You're looking at Danny
I'm looking
Bucco.
at Danny. Looking at Danny, okay. Right, and he's an actor.
No, Danny.
Danny right here, he's an actor. Why? Because motivators are also great actors. Don't do anything rash. And so when you're a motivator, I would say the great temptation is to put on a version of yourself that keeps you safe. And have you ever listened to a speaker? Like what you've heard over the last 2 days, I think is very rare. You've heard very authentic expressions of each person. Very textured, very human, very real. But with some of the speakers, I've heard them in other situations in the past years where they were less textured or authentic, and times where there was more performance. Because it is really difficult to get on a platform 200 times in front of audiences where you're being paid to be world class and to hit the mark every single time as your authentic self. Sometimes you mail it in. Sometimes you put on a person that isn't your core person, it's a persona. Motivators are very good at that. Motivators know how to be what you want them to be, and you never see them. So one of the interesting things about a motivator times is they may encourage and motivate and inspire and energize a room and then feel very depressed later because they wonder if anyone sees them. Does that resonate with you guys? And so in your shadow, when a person's completely in their shadow, and by the way, I think this is true with a lot of personalities on television, a lot of personalities who are on platforms for a living, they learn how to create a persona and they perform and they have world-class performances. By the way, your shadow doesn't mean failure. And that's the temptation. Your shadow may actually lead you to greater success than your authentic self. It just won't lead you to greater aliveness or meaning or happiness, because it'll leave you empty in the long run. So in succession, the motivator is Aaron.
No, this is not a Q&A. You can ask them. I ask the questions, and this is my podcast now.
It's Roman.
And no, it is.
Roman is the performer. He should be the motivator, but he's performer. And so Roman is always performing. He's always on. He's in a sense always fake, because he's pretending to be someone. Even when he's crass and cruel and uncaring, he's faking. He actually cares more than he pretends. He actually wants to be loved. He actually wants to be respected. He actually wants to be trusted. But since he feels like, I'm not going to be loved, I'm not going to be trusted, I'm not going to be wanted, so I'm also act like it's not important. So he has an entire persona that protects who he is. And when you look at that motivator and then you see the shadow pulling him toward performer, and I've had conversations with world-class communicators who've asked me, how do I get better? And I've sat with them and I said, you're a performer. And your next level is stepping into your authentic self and actually becoming a motivator by letting people see who you really are. And I've had some of them text me, go, being authentic is too hard, because they've learned how to be exceptional as performers. Let's talk about the challenger.
Let's go. But here I have a question. So
Okay, sure.
Why are the shadows so important? And why did you make an emphasis in the book? And why did you only give us like 6 pages?
Oh, I think the shadows are really important because most of the examples we have in our current culture are shadow frequencies.
Can you give a couple examples?
Politically, almost all we hear are shadows.
You're talking like news media, CNN, Fox News, and whatever that other third
Every
one was?
medium, including the politicians. You do not get much authentic frequencies from politicians because they're trained to work from their shadows.
Are they trained? Who trains them? That's who I want to know.
Well, some people are lifetime political personalities. All their lives, they wanted to be politicians. And others of them developed the power of politics and became politicians. I'm not saying which one is which. I'm just saying.
So are unhealthy people or inauthentic people drawn to politics? Or does something happen inside of the politics that makes them unhealthy?
That's an interesting question. I think it's impossible to succeed in politics being a truly authentic human, because the process demands a level of inauthenticity that protects you.
When was the last authentic politician in your mind?
I don't want to say. And
No, say.
Well,
This
no.
is why we're here. This is why we do this. Say it, and then they won't come next year.
they won't like the people I name.
Yeah, they won't
Maybe.
like, or they will.
They might not.
Well, it's fine.
I think the reason Barack Obama won was because he was rarely authentic with his frequencies. You may not have liked his policies, and maybe you'd even like his outcomes, but you went, I think this is who he is. And by the way, you know who's also actually uses a lot of authentic frequencies? Bernie Sanders. You may hate him.
Yeah, I do.
And,
But I need
his policies.
Yeah, but his policies. Yeah, but him. Let him talk. Let him talk and ruin it.
But he is who he is.
He is.
And he doesn't care if you like him or not.
Do you think that's why he became dangerous on the left? Because he started to kind of unravel
I think the reason he was
bureaucracy.
more popular than Hillary is because Hillary used a lot of what I would say shadow frequencies, and Bernie used a lot of authentic frequencies, because he didn't care if you agreed with him or not.
No.
He didn't even care if you liked him or not. He just cared if you heard him. And then if you look on the right, like ironically, like Donald Trump, from my perspective, he swings on a pendulum of his shadow and light. And well, I'm going to skip challenger, go right to commander, because Donald Trump is a commander, and from my perspective, but he also moves to the shadow, which is dictator. And so every once in a while, he slips into that dictator frequency, and I say every once in a while, maybe sarcastically. And, but yeah, I'd love to take over the country and just run it for 5 minutes. Like, and what happens with a person who's a commander is that when the frequency is coming from their authentic self and the good of others is the focus. Because the way I think of shadows is this: when your focus is the contribution you can make for others, you're working from your authentic frequency. When your focus is what others can contribute to you, you're working from your shadow. All right. So it's which direction the energy of your soul is going. So this is not a political perspective. I think there are moments where Donald Trump actually cares about people and America and the society. And that's when you hear it, but he's still a commander. So it still comes across like, I know what to do and I'm going to tell you. And some people like that and some people don't. And then sometimes he works from a shadow. And I think that's why he's hard to manage, is even the people who are speechwriters probably just throw their pencils in the air.
But I have a question for you there. So
Yeah.
is it his command frequency is so strong he's almost unmanageable? Or do you think his shadow frequency dominates and then that's when he becomes unmanageable?
I think it's because he is equally comfortable in his shadow and his light. I don't think he cares which one he uses as long as it works. And commanders operate best in crisis. Like, hey, when he got shot, like, come on.
Allegedly.
I don't care where you stand. That was like epic, right?
What do you mean?
Fight. I don't mean him getting shot. That was not epic, okay? What I'm saying is his response. Now, you see, he can't fake that. You may hate him as, politically, but you can't fake that level of courage. It was not only inherent, it was like almost necessary. He had, get off of me. Like, and this is the moment. And he was like, right? I mean, how many of us would be going, get me out of here? Like,
I would have been playing dead.
Like, he hit me, I'm down.
I'm down.
Like, he's like, fight. And I'm watching, this is interesting. This is his authentic frequency. He's a commander who elevates in crisis. So when there is no crisis, he has to create one. All right, I didn't know we were going to talk about this.
Well, no,
but we're
because they're not alive anymore.
Right,
so
no.
these guys are. Someone said like shots fired when we talked about Trump, but just wait till we get to Kamala Harris. That'll be great. I'm going to use real people. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So
You guys okay with that? Okay.
and we don't care how you vote or if you do, just that you listen to our podcast and to buy this book and join the arena. So
see, that was a very authentic frequency.
it is. It is. Challenger. Who?
All right. So anyway, let's clarify. Commander's shadow.
We don't have enough time to clarify. We got to keep
dictator.
going.
If you're a
Challenger.
commander, that's your primary. Stand up real quick. I want to see the commanders.
Oh, Eric and Tess, that must be fun.
Awesome.
That's
You guys look powerful. You look
Yes.
powerful. And all right, sit back down.
Okay.
So the shadow of a commander is a dictator, and the challenge with the shadow of a commander is that
My mom said, she just texted,
what'd she say?
tell them to vote in all caps. Go vote.
All right. Now, this may come as a surprise to you, but Kim's primary frequency is commander.
Commander.
All right.
That's her asking me a question.
And here's the challenge, though. If you're a commander and you're a dad, you can't see your children as employees or enlisted personnel in your military,
You mean the special forces of Eric Roy?
because you're gonna crush your 6-year-old daughter if you're using only a commander frequency. If you're a commander and you're married,
Hey, you want to stay married, right? She's texting me again.
you want to be aware that that commander frequency may not help you accomplish what you hope are the outcomes you want. So what I try to tell people, it's not that you need to change your frequency, is that your frequency, your right to be yourself, shouldn't be more important than your desire to have a positive outcome. Does that make sense? Like we've been taught to be egotistical in this culture. Just be you. No, be a better version of you. Be a less dumb version of you. Like, and all right, third frequency.
Not a great parenting tool either, just so you know. Didn't
What?
really help.
What's that?
That ideology.
No, don't command your children. Oh,
The acceptance of self is also important.
yes. I wasn't
telling me
using
at
it for
11,
parenting.
being like, "Well, just be a better you." It'd be like, it didn't really help. It was like, how do I just get to 12? Keep going. Sorry.
So the third frequency you want to focus on is challenger.
Yes.
The shadow of the challenger. Oh no, all the challengers stand up. I want to see you.
Oh wow.
Wow. That's good.
Arturo, you finished the test, and you got it. We were
Challenger.
right. That makes so much sense.
That's awesome.
What were the other
Beautiful.
two? Professor.
Motivator.
Okay.
All right, you guys can sit down.
Sit down. Amazing.
So we know all the positives about challengers. You guys are amazing. And you make the world better. You call us all out.
No, that's not
and
about
up.
this. This is not a
Affirmation time?
No. They can read the book if they want the good.
But we want to go to the shadow. The shadow of a challenger is a manipulator. Because when you're focused,
Do you see how judgy the room got? They're like, ooh.
but that's also the challengers going, no, it's not.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Every single person who's come up to me and told me the assessment is inaccurate
Is always,
is a challenger.
and it's
Every single one of you.
like so much so. Like Mariah's an anomaly because she's a challenger.
Yes.
But she doesn't challenge us on being a challenger. She challenges us on everyone else's results.
Who's a challenger?
And a commander.
Because she doesn't want them to be in her category.
It's so unique. Yeah. I was like, that's how much of, yeah, okay. Wait.
Because one of the challenges for a challenger is that you have to stay focused on calling people to their best self, not coercing people to what you need them to be.
But I need them to be it.
Have you ever had an experience with someone who puts so much force of energy on your life that you feel obligated to do something, feel something, or do something you do not want to do?
Yeah, you.
You're probably experiencing.
You.
Give me an example.
Everything has to be beautiful all the time.
Okay, I accept that. That's different. That's not what we're talking about here. And you have to be careful as a challenger because you have a powerful frequency. And you can get a yes when you should be receiving the no. And one of the things I would say to a challenger is that if no one can say no to you, you're operating out of your shadow. There has to be oxygen in the room for people to dissent, to disagree, or just not want to do what you want to do. Let's keep going. Oh, we didn't. Oh, so Logan is the commander, the dad in Succession.
But who in real life?
Well, we already said Trump's the commander.
But yeah, but the challenger.
Oh, no. And the challenger is Shiv.
No, but in real life.
Oh,
Other than
yeah, but
Mariah.
I'm sticking with this Succession.
I know, but I
Yeah.
like politics.
I think a lot of challengers are football coaches or sports coaches where the halftime speech, when you're up by 57 points, they're still screaming at you. You're like, you've messed up the whole game. And I was watching, is it Saban in interviews, because he's retired now from Alabama. Have you guys watched some of those? Like, some people, the journalists will say, some people have criticized you for being too harsh. He goes, I feel that's unfair. He just says, most people just want to be average. I'm just calling people to greatness. Like, if you want to be in my environment, you have to agree to want to be great. And if you don't want to be great, get off my team. Go to Tennessee. Go to Auburn. Go somewhere else. Because here, we all agree. We're going to pay the price. We're going to bleed. We're going to die to be great. And I just think that challenger is usually the frequency that elite people are drawn to. But frankly, usually average people are not. So if you're a challenger and you're trying to challenge someone who's very happy with average, they're like, why are you messing with me? I remember years ago, I called my brother because I had a guy on my staff, and I said, I cannot get optimal productivity out of him. I'm not going to say.
I'm so toxic.
And this was a long time ago, and he goes, describe it. I said, he comes to work at 9 and leaves at 5. Doesn't think about the work on the weekends. He just shows up. And I went through, and Alex said, oh, you hired a healthy human being. And,
that's why you won't tell me who it is. They're not with us anymore.
Yeah, no, they're not with us anymore.
Okay.
And because it was a long time ago, he said, you hired a healthy human being. Erwin, you're like, compulsive. And you wake up in the morning thinking you should change the world. Why did you hire a healthy person? And I realized that was a terrible strategy. I'll never hire a healthy person again. And because I want to hire people who compulsively want to change the world and would like a place where they get to do that. So that's a part of the challenger in me. And I think that. And
what are your 3?
Well, yes, but after we get through all the shadows. All right, so next, let's move faster. Next one's the healer. This
is the one we changed.
In the video masterclass, I said the shadow of the healer is the guru. But as we spent the last 2 years going deeper, we realized that was just an early layer, that it's actually the cipher. And I have to say, I discovered this in an unfortunate way. Because I was working with a person who's a strong healer, but he's operating almost 100% out of his shadow. And I realized that he was a cipher because he needed to be loved and worshiped and adored and affirmed without any critique. And he was so psychologically fragile that if you shared with him any problem, now you were attacking them. And I realized, what's happening is there's a black hole in his soul. And you can't fill it because it has a voracious need for praise. And so when you're I should have done it backwards, but if you're a healer, stand up.
Yeah. There's fewer and fewer people getting up every time.
All right. You guys are the soul of humanity, okay? You are the soul of humanity. You are what makes us warm as creatures. You may be seated. But you have a shadow. And that shadow can be consuming because you love deeply. You care deeply. You know people are wounded and broken. But sometimes you don't realize that you're wounded and broken. Most therapists become therapists to heal their own wounds. And frankly, I think most pastors become pastors to heal their own wounds. And if you use other people in your act of service to heal yourself, it can become a very, very dangerous and destructive relationship of codependency. Does that make sense? All right, I'll subtly move on. Professors, stand up, please, before I get to your shadow.
Yeah, stand up. We still like you. Oh, we have 2.
We have 2.
3. Javier.
3.
3. Any others? Going once, going twice. You.
Back there. 4.
We got you. Okay.
We have 4 professors. My prediction was, you may be seated. You guys are awesome. You're brilliant. Thank you for your relentless
Thanks for
search
hanging in
for
there.
truth, for
Yeah.
hanging in here. And one of the things I share with you is that my prediction was professors would be the last ones to catch on the 7 frequencies because we don't have enough empirical data yet. But once we have 1 million people who've gone through this, you'll know that I'm right. And but here's the interesting thing about professors. Have you ever seen the movie Finding Forrester? Or more recently, Whiplash? That's a perfect example of the shadow of a professor. Because what can happen is because professors find their value in their expertise. And so if you go to your shadow, rather than elevating yourself through knowledge and learning, you elevate yourself by pushing other people down. So you can become a demeanor or diminisher. And what I liked about Finding Forrester is that you had almost like 3 professor frequencies. The student who was desperate to learn, who was a genius. And so that's you. Then you also have, I think it's Sean Connery, if I remember correctly, who is also a professor, who was the mentor, who found their highest value in unlocking the genius in the next generation, which can also be you. Then you had the third professor, that his value was found in demeaning the student and diminishing their genius and their contribution so they could remain the expert that could become you if you go to your shadow. And probably all of us have, unfortunately, somewhere in school, have experienced the shadow of a professor who found some odd reward in diminishing an 11-year-old student because it made them feel more powerful rather than elevating that student and unlocking their talent and their genius. All right, let's go through the last 2.
That felt like oddly intimate because there's only 4 of them.
Yes.
Like, I can see their faces, and I
know,
don't want to
I
look
was
back out to
looking
the
right
audience again now. Okay,
And
the next one.
the seer. How many of you, seer is your primary frequency, stand up?
Ooh, interesting.
That's beautiful. It's so good to see you guys. To see you, seers. All right, you may sit down. There are more of you in this room than there are in the world proportionally, because this is a seer culture in many ways, and so you're more drawn here than in other spaces. If we were just going to do a natural selection, there would be more professors and fewer seers. But because of the culture, there's a natural kind of filtering process. Just like if this event was more therapeutic, more healing oriented, more nurturing, we would have a lot more healers. But we had a lot of healers, and which I find that to be really encouraging. Seers are the visionaries. There's inherently are looking toward the future. They're always painting a higher view of ourselves, of our lives, of our world, and they inspire us. They infuse in us not just their vision. Like, I think people who cast vision are an incredible gift, but people who unlock vision are even a greater gift. And seers, when they move to their highest selves, are not just calling people to a vision, but calling vision out of people. But the shadow of a seer, and I can't remember the exact phrase I used here, but I think I might have put the perfectionist in there. Yeah, because what happens when a seer moves to their shadow is they try to not simply control the image of the future, they try to control every step in the process. And if you're a seer and you move into a negative space for yourself, no one ever does it good enough. They got it wrong. They can't see it. You're messing up my vision. And it's because they are. Because a vision is beautiful until it is translated into reality. And one of the most painful experiences for a seer is to realize you can't even fulfill your vision perfectly. Isn't that irritating? That's why sometimes seers don't do anything. It protects the idea. Sorry, I didn't even know we're going to go there. So when it turns into your shadow, you micromanage, you're a perfectionist. It's never good enough. And you have to realize that people need creative space. If you're a seer, you have to give people oxygen to create even a vision that's yours. And it'll never translate exactly how you saw it. So you have to realize that your vision should be an inspiration. It's not an architectural draft of the future. Because once people are involved, it changes. When you're in your shadow, it's never good enough, it's never good enough, it's never good enough, and you paralyze yourself. How many of you seers have something you see and you've stopped because you can't get it perfect? You know that you do that. What's better, an imperfect future you've created or a perfect future you've only imagined? You have to decide. No one can decide for you. That's the shadow. And then, I didn't keep going down the secession list, but I'm going to give you these real quick.
No. Maven, let's do the last one because I want to go to Q&A afterwards. Are you guys with us? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Seer's your Kendall.
No, we go through.
Challenger's your Civ.
I love you. Go through Maven. You're great. What is it? You're like a 7-year-old right now. Will you do Maven? Because I want to get to the Q&As.
I hate rules. And
You hate rules?
rules.
Who am I to give you rules?
No, just teasing. And all right, Mavens. Okay, everyone whose primary frequency is a Maven, stand up.
Oh, they're all in one section.
All right. Now there's a couple right here. Oh, back. Anyone standing back there? No, you're seated. Okay. Oh, who's standing back there?
Josh and Andres. David Giannis.
Giannis. All right. All right. You may be seated. You proportionally in population, you're going to be the smallest group, and because we humans understand things that are direct reflections of ourselves and misunderstand things that are not direct reflections, Mavens are more misunderstood. Because the chances of you finding yourselves in the world are like close to zero. And so most Mavens spend their entire lives never having another person who shares their frequency. You just happen to be in the room, and some of you found each other. Leo, you're still alone. And
So great.
but you found the arena. And it's interesting because several of the Mavens are people from other countries, and the reason you're here is because the only way you can find each other is traveling far and wide. But the shadow of a Maven is the nihilist. It's if a Maven is a person who naturally sees things in unexpected ways, they communicate realities in a way that doesn't resonate with people. It may even sound wrong or heretical or improbable, but it seems normal to them. And if you're trying to confuse people, you're not a Maven. If you're trying to be understood and it feels impossible, you're more likely a Maven. People asked me years ago, what do you do to think outside of the box? As if that were an exercise.
The exercise would be like, what can you get in the box?
Yeah, and I said, no, you don't know how much of my life I've spent trying to be in the box because I wanted to be loved, accepted, and understood. And so if you're trying to get out of the box, you're something else, but you're not a Maven. If you're trying to figure out how people found their way in the box to belong, you're more likely a more natural Maven. But the problem is that Mavens can convince themselves that they're the only ones who see the world clearly. And so if no one accepts their view, they can move to a hopelessness. It is the only line I'm going to quote from Secession.
No, you talk about Secession all you want.
Because Greg is my Maven. He's like the outlier character in the story.
Cousin Greg.
And the one line that struck me as the Maven line is when Tom invites him to join him in a plot. to overtake the whole family's company, he said, I'm inviting you to lose your soul. And Greg says, well, what am I going to do with a soul anyway? Probably the darkest line in the entire series. And that's the line of a maven when they're not careful. When they go to their shadow, they move toward hopelessness in a dark place, and they believe that that's the only outcome. I think many movies that are post-apocalyptic, movies that are nihilistic, movies that see all of humanity coming to a horrible, bitter end, those are probably written by mavens who are writing out of their shadow because they don't believe humanity has a positive future waiting for them.
Do you think Succession was created by nihilists?
Yes, I don't know if it's written by Maven. It's written by a brilliant anthropologist who understands human behavior at a deep, profound, and complex level, which is why I watched it, because I like shows that are honest about who we are and reveal aspects of us that we hide from ourselves. And so I study, I don't watch shows, I study shows. And I ask myself, where is this true to me? Where have I seen this in reality? And am I aware of it? And so I think it is a brilliant study of human frequencies, of the shadows. But and on a very personal level, and I've probably been more honest with Kim than anyone in the world on this in my life. But I've had some very, very dark moments in my spiritual journey where I didn't know if I could ethically stay identified with Christianity, even though I completely believe in Jesus. And that's a challenging place to live as a pastor. And I remember one time we were in Greece in a swimming pool by ourselves, and I started sharing with her my own personal struggles. And she goes, do you not believe in Jesus anymore? I said, this is why I can't have this conversation, because I really am struggling with things, and I didn't have language yet. I can't deny Jesus because he's more real to me than life itself. So that's never an issue for me. But I really have a problem with the culture that has been created out of Christianity. And when I looked at Christian television, I couldn't find an authentic frequency anywhere. And I started really struggling, going, like, my soul knows this frequency is a shadow. And I remember finally having two conversations, both with atheists. One who's a Chinese businessman who came up to me after I spoke at NYU, and he said, well, if Christianity was the way you're describing it, I wouldn't be an atheist. He goes, but I just can't believe in God. I said, no. I said, you don't believe in the manifestation of what people who say they believe in God have created. You haven't even had an encounter with God to know whether you believe in him or not. And then, and what was really interesting is when I said to someone, oh, you didn't reject God, you rejected the frequency in which it was communicated to you. And it's like a light came on in his mind, and he goes, that's it. And I just desperately want people who believe in Jesus, most specifically, to use authentic frequencies to talk about what matters most to them. But we're taught inauthentic frequencies. And in the business world, I thought, when I went to the business world, I thought, finally I can escape the inauthentic frequencies. Wow. That was not true.
No, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
There's more fugazi. They just fugazi and
oh my gosh. And but it's the same thing, because I'm listening to really famous business speakers. I'm going, can't you hear? He's like 100% shadow. And I realized something. If you want an outcome more than you want an ethic or an essence, you will choose their process and accept their essence. So here's the danger. Logan was a billionaire, and he is a model to a lot of people. and Logan is real. And so if you want to be a billionaire bad enough, and Logan's your model, you're not just going to accept his process. You're going to accept his essence. And you're not even going to know you're accepting the essence. So it made me more committed to helping business people become highly successful, because I want people with a human essence being the models of the outcome and teaching people the process, so that when you embrace the right process for the right outcome, you also get the right essence. And
Can we do some Q&A?
yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. We want to do like a quick Q&A. Are you guys into that? Or are we exhausted, ready to go home? We're done.
What are the 3 rules for
There's
questions?
3 rules that I forgot the last time we did a Q&A, and so things got weird. Okay, only one question. It has to actually be a question, and then after it's done, no more questions about the thing. If you're too scared to ask it, don't ask.
Too late.
Too late.
Yes, because every time afterwards, you don't ask, and then you swarm me. And you swarm Aaron.
No, because I just
Yeah, he moves. So here's the thing.
too quick.
We've just given you 2 full days. And then tomorrow I'm going to speak at Mosaic twice in the morning. So the moment we say,
See you next year.
I will see you next year.
Or tomorrow morning.
Or tomorrow morning at Mosaic,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, before we do Q&A.
We'll do that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Q&A.
Okay, so Marcos,
Have great questions.
and then do you got Jada? Okay, we got questions. You guess you got to stand up,
All right,
wave it.
Say your name, your
Right
primary
here.
frequency, and then your question.
Of course, it's Caleb.
Hello, hello. Oh, perfect. There you go. So I'm a healer frequency. So I got a question for. all
Right, you
the
got to
healers
introduce
out-
yourself. Where are you
Oh,
from? Who are you?
oh, sorry.
And are you a part of the arena membership?
Okay, stop looking at yourself.
Okay,
Just-
sorry. My bad. That was performer coming out maybe a little bit too much. So I'm from DC, and I'm a college student studying technology and entrepreneurship. I'm also a healer frequency. So my question is that for the healers that are out there who are aware of like the wounds that they're carrying, how do they make sure that they're not moving into their shadow and walk into rooms maybe knowing that they're wounded and they're healing from that, and not like automatically go to their shadow and start consuming that? That's my question.
Thank you, Caleb, for the question. I think one thing is, right now in our society, we've become convinced that everyone's responsible to care about our healing. You have to eliminate that from your brain. When you go to work, your boss isn't responsible to care about your healing. It'd be great if he did, right? But he's not responsible. The people you're trying to sell to, they're not responsible to care about your healing. It'd be wonderful if they did, but that's not the real world. So what you have to do is you have to take responsibility for your healing. And you have to realize that if you don't make yourself a priority in your healing, no one else will. And so, Caleb, obviously I know you're a part of the arena community. And I think what's really important is to go, developing myself is more important than my personal success right now. Like, I want to become whole. I want to be healthy. I want to be vibrant and alive. I want to have a deep textured faith. And I want my success to come out of who I am, not around who I am. And that's what I would say, is that make your inner world your primary focus, your priority, and let your outer world be a reflection of it. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Kyle. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia. My primary frequency is Commander. And my question for you today is, if I'm communicating to somebody and they're not resonating with my Commander and I'm losing touch with them and I can't go deep, how can I recognize the frequency that they're on so I could change my language to be able to connect with them? Thank you.
Commander?
It's like the bane of my existence. I just find people who can hear my voice. Honestly, no. I think it's asking more questions. Like, I think that's part of it. Is like, I think for commanders, we're so functional. That's why I really love like my team that I've had for so long. I operate at a higher level when when the team that I'm on understands that the moment the game is on, like the moment this happens, I don't have to say please and thank you. You know what I mean? Like we've done enough emotional rapport where we can command each other. We operate more like a real team, live in the moment. But then we have, we got some people that will be on the team that are more healers or more professors. Professors will never work with me ever because there's never enough data around the things I'm commanding them to do. But I think asking questions like how, off the, out of the situations about their personal life, about the things they're going through, I think there's ways of finding commonalities to opening up their frequency, because we've talked about this a lot, like almost more than the frequency you communicate in, like how do you listen? And so I think, being a great communicator, using all 7 frequencies, but being a master listener, you can listen to every frequency where they're at, right? When a healer asks me, how are you? I run because I don't ever really want to answer that question. Like, how are you? Good. But a healer's like, no, but how are you really? But I'm like, no, I'm really good. Whether I'm falling apart or not, but I think understanding that there's these commonalities between us. Like I know I can speak to that frequency because I know the right questions to ask. So I think there's that. I think you can work with people. And then also like I disclaim the way we work as a team. Like if you want to be on the team, like just so you know, there's gonna be moments where it's gonna suck. Where we're loud, we're rambunctious, we're intense. And there's kind of this operational core value of until you get to a point where we fight and you want to quit, but then you don't, you're not really on the team. You're just still figuring out if you want to be on it or not, right?
Aaron's number 1 is commander, and that's my number 7. And so one of the ways he's actually learned to work well with me, once, especially when we did the 7 frequencies, he would send me text saying, hey, Dad, I'm about to send 5 statements that will all sound like commands, but they're just ideas. I don't even know if I agree with them. And they all did come across like commands, but I would have historically thought that he was trying to force something to happen. He was trying to force me to think about something and give a response. And so now it's so much better. So sometimes it's just identifying, going, hey, I'd love for you to study this with me on frequencies. We're going to be able to communicate better. My primary frequency is commander. Even when I'm asking a question, it sounds like a command. Even when I'm really just interested in your position, it's going to come across like a command. And so sometimes helping a person understand how you communicate helps them adjust to it. Does that make sense? So when Kim says, tell them to vote, I know what she's really saying is you guys are doing a great job.
I did it, Mom. Okay, Jada.
Johnny from Calgary. You can feel free to say see you tomorrow. But this has been bugging me all weekend. You talked a lot about the frequencies of us, all of us here. But I'm curious what your thoughts are about what is God's frequency?
Yeah, I don't have an answer to what is God's frequency. God's frequency is the universe, okay, because that's literally what the word means. It's like a singular, it's like God's voice. God speaks through everything. And we don't have anything God doesn't have. So I'm assuming,
He's got 'em all.
everything we express is an expression of God. Someone once asked me an odd question like, why are there so many different churches if there's one God? I'm like, what makes you think God's boring? Like, there's not one color, there's not one flavor, there's not one aroma, right? Imagine if there's only like cardboard, both flavor and color, right? And
It's called England.
England.
Sorry. So
McLaren,
sorry.
I apologize.
I'm sorry.
And in the same way with frequencies, I think human frequencies are just, to me, they're an expression of the complexity and beauty of God. You shouldn't expect that everyone has the same frequency.
Marcos.
I'm Ruby Z, and I am a motivator. And my question is, how would you encourage, like, if you know that you're in a situation, especially I find myself being in a really interesting situation where I really am working on myself in this season while I'm also a leader of a business. I'm a CEO. And so it gets really hard sometimes to identify, like, okay, I'm in some shadow work, I'm in some things I need to work out on myself, while I also have to kind of keep being a motivator or keep doing all these things for other people. How do you kind of like balance making sure you're taking care of yourself and working on yourself while also leading others better or learning even their ways of communicating and having to choose them? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I do, yes. And I want to say this, like, if you're going, oh, how do I know if I'm my shadow or my light? Or how do I look, here's what you do. You make sure you're not moving from fear. You're not moving from anger. You're not moving from bitterness. You're not moving from greed. So what you want to do is take care of your soul space and go, I want to do everything out of love. I want to do everything out of generosity. I want to do everything out of kindness. I want to do everything filled with hope. Your frequency will take care of itself. Your frequency is an extension, an expression of the core you. So if you walk in a room with your employees and you go, and you've prepared yourself, I love my employees, I love my team, I'm filled with hope, I believe we're going to do something amazing. We've got problems, but that's not who we are, that's what we got to deal with. And when you bring that kind of soul space in, your frequencies will just be amazing. Does that make sense? And so it's almost like you can't control your frequencies. Your frequencies will expose you whether you want it to or not.
That's so scary. Jada, where are you at?
Over there.
Hi, I'm Jesus from Mexico, and I'm a healer, and I'm living in my own succession story right now. My dad is departing the business, and he has been a commander for 20 years, and I'm a healer. Do you have any recommendations on how to deal with your team? Because obviously, we have a different way of thinking, of working, of even talking to the people. Any insights you can share?
If your dad's a commander, you're a healer, you need therapy.
No, but really, that would help, probably. But
Actually would.
How would you do that?
One, it's a challenging thing because if you're naturally a healer and your father's naturally commander, his strategy for making you strong was probably backwards. Like, toughen him up, help him not feel emotions, help him not be sensitive, help him not be vulnerable, and going completely against the way God has designed you, but not because he didn't love you. And so what we need to realize is most of us have damage from people who are trying to do good. Some of us have damage from people who are trying to do bad, but most of us are just damaged by people who are trying to do the right thing, but they just didn't know how to do the right thing. So if you could just go, oh, my dad's frequency was just incompatible with the way I was designed as a human being. And he just didn't understand that because he didn't have that level of complexity. Because not very few of us do. That's why I'm hoping that this will change the way even parents parent. I think this could be revolutionary in the way we treat our children and our spouses and our family and friends and coworkers and companies. So one of the things I would do is, and I know this is hard, translate what your dad says in the text of love. So that when your dad says something really commanding and harsh, underneath that is, he actually trusts me. He actually believes in me. He actually loves me. That's why he's commanding me, not someone else. He actually trusts me. That's why he's being hard on me. He doesn't trust someone else. Does that make sense? And then also, he's never going to reciprocate. No matter how much like healer you send his direction, he's never going to become a healer. Does that make sense? It'll probably make him uncomfortable. And one of the things that I think all of us need to do as adult children is tell ourselves, they gave me all the love they were capable of giving. Does that make sense? And then go, I'm just going to learn how to be capable of giving more.
Yeah.
And don't take that to the next level down. Yeah.
I also think that, okay, so I go to therapy, I do. And we had a thing that happened last Sunday. Like I had an anger moment where I'm gonna be vulnerable for a second because I'm still like wrestling with this a little bit. And even though you don't talk about the things you're actually wrestling with in the moment, it's still our podcast. No, but something happened and something very small happened and I got very angry. My response was not equal to the crime. And I was overwhelmed by my anger. Like, and I told you afterwards, like I saw red, could have ripped this person's head off, probably. And that's something I struggled with a lot when I was younger. Just this ability to like live in a calm and peaceful space, for a numerous amount of reasons, but that person I felt like I put in a box. And so I was talking to my therapist. I said, "Hey, this is really weird, and something really random happened." I think a seemingly peaceful person for the most part, except for if you work with me, or you're my family. But I'm struggling with this. I like want this person in the box, and she was amazing. Her name is Miri. She's this great woman, and she goes, "Oh, I want to let him out of the box," and I was like, "Nope, he stays in box." And she goes, "I want you to like." She's like, you have all of these emotions that you're really familiar with and really comfortable with. And so like emotions to frequencies, let's just compare those. She's like, I want you to feel as comfortable with your anger as you are with your joy. Because your joy doesn't make you anxious. It doesn't make you see red. But if you have a healthy relationship with your anger, you also, the same way you have a healthy relationship with your joy, you're going to get to a better place. And it's not going to take over and you're going to have mastery over that. So I think like this, because I also had a mother who was a commander. So I used humor to sidestep being told to take out the trash all the time. And so I think I had to create a way, and I think for you, it's you need to figure out a way to find, to speak commander, right, without seeing red and getting angry, because it's probably not the natural frequency that you use to speak back to your father, right? So don't go and try to like cut down the tree and kill the commander. But I think you have to find a way to speak the language. And me and mom had a unique relationship growing up. It was two commanders going head to head. But we found our commonality, our common space was humor. We laugh, we yell, we're intense, but it always kind of comes full circle back to laughter. And when we're in our healthiest frequency, we're playful and laughing and making jokes and making fun of each other. And we're able to speak each other's language really, really well. And so I think you have to find that third thing that isn't healing, it isn't commanding. It's what's that thing you guys connect on that helps the language mitigate a little bit.
That's so good. Oh, wow.
Marcos, you got someone? What's up, man?
Yeah. It's just a good reminder as he gets to the question that every emotion you don't deal with will eventually deal with you.
Yeah. Okay. What's up, man?
Well, good afternoon. My name is James. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. And my primary communication frequency is healer. How can we as healers design strategies that not only drive success, but also prioritizes healing and emotional well-being, ensuring that people feel valued and empowered throughout the process?
Whew. Wow. I didn't even care about the answer. That question is so good. That question is an answer. It really is. I was sitting in the back earlier and I thought, man, how do we turn companies to places that have managers to a place that has mentors? Like I have this like ideal thing in my mind of going, there's going to be one company in the world that will have 0 managers and only mentors. And if you're a healer and you're running a company, to me, creating a space that people want to go to work and want to be in that space because it's challenging and demanding, but it's safe and honest. And I think one of the things you should do as a healer is going, I don't have to create a company that conforms to the strategies and standards of a world that created companies without a healing frequency. I have to reimagine what a company looks like. And there are no rules you have to keep. If you have a company, there's really only one outline or outcome. You have to validate the worth of your company by bringing more money in than you consume. And so if you're making money and you're doing it in a way where everyone wants to work for your company, it's just going to become exponential because you're going to get the best people in the world. If the money's the same and you actually care about people, they're going to go work for you. If the money's the same and you actually care about families and their extended system, they're going to come work for you. And so I actually think that the future of business are those people who pioneer creating the most human and humane companies in the world. And I think that you're really well postured to do that.
One last question, and then we'll get out of here.
One last question, then we'll be done for the night.
Hi, my name is Katrina. I'm here from Germany. And I'm an interior architect, but I also get the chance to coach people in different areas. And I'm wondering if there is or if there will be a way to gain training into coaching people or teams using the 7 frequencies as a tool.
That was not a setup
It's
question.
not a real question. You baiting us.
Wow.
No, yes.
I'm sorry, tell me your name again.
Katrina.
It looks like you're going to be one of our first consultants. And in Germany, I'm...
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk about the vision and the future of this. And then we'll wrap this up.
John Gordon and I were talking in the back. John, you want to say something?
Wait, get him a mic. Get him a mic. Get him a mic.
Give
I want
John
this. I
Gordon
want
the
this
mic.
on film.
He's better at this than me.
I just love that because that wasn't a plan, but it was perfect. And I really think it's God's plan for what you're doing with this because it is the most genius thing. And having worked with tons of companies, like every company will benefit from this. Every organization will benefit from this. And so certifying people to go do this is how you can have a ripple effect by teaching everyone the 7 frequencies and then see the benefits of everyone understanding the frequencies and how to listen, how to connect, and how to operate authentically within your own frequency. So this is awesome.
Yeah, the book actually doesn't come out until
October
October 15th. Okay? And so you're experiencing this before the launch. And by the way, on a personal level, our launch has by double become the fastest, largest book launch in the history of all my writing. And which is kind of awesome. Yeah. And we think that what we have is the most viral product we've ever created. There is nothing like it in the world. You cannot go find another book or another technology or another modality that is this. So we are going to build an entire universe, and we're going to find the brightest, kindest, and most energetic, most proactive people to become coaches all over the world. And that's an entire system that Aaron will be creating.
that John Gordon will be creating.
And if you're interested in that part of this journey, how would they contact us?
info@erwinmcmanus.com. There's actually a real person. Her name is Anita and Austin that are behind it.
We'd like to know who you are. We'd like to keep you involved in the process. The fastest and easiest way is to join the arena because that's the first place we're going to look for our coaches for the future.
Yeah.
I do think we could have a global revolution of human connection, not human communication, human connection. That where people could actually hear each other and listen to each other and connect with each other. It's such a nuanced and beautiful way that it could be absolutely historic and life-changing.
It's exciting, yeah?
It is exciting.
We're gonna
Thank you so much for that question. I
Thank
love
you.
that.
Thank you. Okay. This is the end.
This is it.
This is we will see you next year at the Arena 2025.
Next year is October 12 and 13
Yes.
of 2025. And have people already been asked to pre-register?
Yes.
Have you guys pre-registered?
No.
It helps us if you pre-register because we know you're coming
Yes.
and we're able to plan and have something epic for you. So is there like an advantage in pre-registering, like financially?
Yes.
That's also helpful.
And if you
And-
email Austin, he'll tell you all about it. No, registration will never be cheaper than right now. But also, more than that, skip this. Join the arena membership.
Yeah.
Do it because I think it would genuinely bring so much value to your life. And you get to be with these people each and every week on the calls. I'm very excited. As this evolves, I cannot be more excited for year 3 of the arena. Having Dan, having John, having these like titans, having Brandon Bouchard. Like, go and Google Brandon later. That guy is a monster. The happiest monster I've ever seen. Like, his eyes are so open. When I met him, I knew that what goes through his veins and what goes through mine is very different.
Yeah. And even with Brendan, just that, when you see things being drawn almost like in your favor, in your direction, he's like, can we do something once a month? There's just
Brendan
something-
went to you afterwards,
He went to
behind
me
the
and goes,
scenes.
can we do something once a month? And I never hold people accountable for things they say in enthusiasm, you know, because you got to be given grace. So I didn't really, you know, I was just excited, right? You know, but he just been texting and texting you and texting me.
Yeah.
And he's actually serious. So I think our universe is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
One of the things I want to like encourage you guys, because I know that this is, you know, I know that there's opportunities to buy in and join, but I think the reason why, like, we get this feedback from the communicators that come to us, because most of them are just your friends, but they come because they enjoy actually spending time with you guys. That doesn't normally happen at a lot of conferences where the speakers just
Most
kind of
speakers
roam
just come
around.
and go. Here they stay and eat burgers.
Sean Kelly wouldn't leave last night, you know, and he had like 7 burgers. I was like, and I know that like talking to Phil Jones during our podcast after he had been a part of our first arena, he was just talking about, he's like, I just loved spending time with people in the room, having real questions and real answers. And so I just like applaud you guys for being a wonderful room and team.
Thank you guys so much.
So thank you. Register for next year. Join the arena, and then we'll see you tomorrow at Mosaic, 9:30 and 11:30.
Come to church with us tomorrow. All right, God bless you guys.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Thank you so much.